with black voters in swing states finds Kamala Harris winning 82% of black voters in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Donald Trump, on the other hand, gets only 12% of black votes. Harris's numbers are close to Biden's share of the black vote in those same battleground states in the 2020 election, suggesting that Harris has gained back most of the ground lost among black voters since then. Most, but not all. While this new polling shows Vice President Harris getting overwhelming support from nearly every subgroup of black voters, there is one group proving harder to win over: young black men. According to this new poll, more than 1 in 5 black men under the age of 50 support Donald Trump for president. And when you look specifically at black men under 50 without college degrees, then support for Trump rises to more than 1 in 4 black men. So that may be why Kamala Harris told the National Association of Black Journalists this week that she isn't taking black men and their votes for granted.
I think it's very important to not operate from the assumption that black men are in anybody's pocket. Black men are like any other voting group. You got to earn their vote. So I'm working to earn the vote, not assuming I'm going to have it because I am black, but because the policies and the perspectives I have understands what we must do to recognize the needs of all communities. And I intend to be a president for all people.
Joining me now, the road to 2024. Melissa and Charles, it's great to have two people who've been on the road talking to voters about the exact topics we need to go into tonight. First, let me start with your reaction to this Oprah event that is, I believe, still going or just wrapping up, Melissa. I understand the inclination to do an event with Oprah. If Oprah called me, it wouldn't matter what it was about. I would go do it with her. And certainly there were a lot of stars lined up in this event. I do wonder, though, in terms of ginning up enthusiasm where she most needs it, do you think Oprah makes a difference?
Well, I'm just going to say I think it's a real missed opportunity if Oprah Winfrey doesn't tell every woman in that crowd to look under her seat because you get a democracy, you get a democracy, you get a democracy. Missed opportunity. I don't know if Oprah's going to play well with the demographic of young black men who are perhaps skeptical or maybe Trump curious, but I do think it makes clear that there is support within the black community, and that could be very important in translating to young black men, like their mothers, their grandmothers are all doing this, like everyone in the community is behind this. Maybe there's a reason for that, and maybe I should investigate or interrogate why I am not quite in line yet.
Can you expand on that, Charles? Is that like that sort of family dynamic, the matriarchy coming together and being like, you will vote for Kamala Harris, young black man in my family?
It does exist, and I think that in quite simple terms, that may be part of the problem because of the conversation and the way it's being had. There are a number of black men who I and Tremaine spoke to on the course of filming Black Men in America, The Road to 2024, who expressed a sense of part of the issue that they are having is the way that people are talking to them about their vote, as opposed to having conversations with them. A lot of black men have expressed feeling like folks are talking at them and castigating them for having questions, for having apprehension, for wanting to wait. Reservations, wanting to see some policy before they make a decision and commit. And so at the end of the day, you're still talking about men. And so there's a feeling in some respects of, hold on, who are you talking to like that? Well, you can't sort of shame me to the polls. That is not an effective strategy.
And you could see that in her response at the NABJ conference when she said, look, I don't take them for granted. I know I need to earn it. That seems like she's reading from the same hymnal that you're reading from, which is, don't tell people they have to vote for me. Don't shame them into it. I got to earn it.
Give me a reason why. And I think that part of the problem with Democratic messaging for some people has been, you have been selling me a vision of less last, meaning that I've survived Donald Trump one, and now you're telling me that this is going to be worse. But at the same time, you told me the same thing about George Bush. You told me the same thing about Ronald Reagan. And I'm still here. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's valid. I'm not saying it's valid. But I'm saying that if, for example, I am a black male who who has only seen the unemployment rate in this country be surpassed by Native American men and no other demographic, selling me a vision of less last is not necessarily the best way to go.
But again, I think one of the things that we saw when we went around the country talking to black women, it's not just black men who have questions. I think young black women also have questions.
Sure.
So women of my age and older, they are solidly in that camp. And they were even before the switch. Like, we talked to women who said, I will vote for Joe Biden's desiccated body if it comes to that. But these younger women are, they have questions. And one of the things that was really interesting to me is, they talked about some questions about police brutality. What has the Biden administration done around police brutality? And in fact, the Biden administration has done a lot around police brutality. One of the most historic executive orders, putting money into policing and police accountability. We don't really talk about that on the media because we've spent the last year covering January 6th and Trump's trials and whatnot.
Well, and police brutality, the appalling footage of police brutality continues to be generated independent of the Biden administration.
But here's another part of it, and this came out very clearly, and I think it's the same with black men. It occurred to me that this is the generation of people who grew up in schools after No Child Left Behind. So they grew up in an educational system where we were divested of music and PE and civics education. So they may not understand as clearly as other people in the media and law or whatnot that the president has very limited power over the 18,000 police departments in the country. That's a municipality and a locality issue. And so part of this, they want to see change, but they're looking to the president, and maybe that's not the person who's going to do this. So we really have to think about the way in which our electorate is being educated, what it means downstream, because this isn't just about black men. I think we're going to see this further down the line with lots of different groups.
Well, and when you account for the educational divide, that's where you're seeing the biggest cleave towards Trump. I got to say, though, there's like the case for the positive case for voting for Harris. Then there's also the case for voting for Harris as an antidote to Trump.
Sure.
And I got to wonder what you guys think of the rhetoric coming out of Springfield, directed at Springfield, Ohio. It's something that Oprah Winfrey brought up actually this evening just a few minutes ago. I think we have the clip. If we could play it for you guys so you can hear how she's framing it.
From a child of immigrants to big sister to McDonald's worker, there is hope for y'all. District attorney, a wife, and mamala to senator to vice president, please welcome Kamala Harris. When I was coming through the airport, black man stopped me and he said, I guess he knew I was coming here for something like this. And he goes, well, I'm just tell you, I'm voting for Trump. We're so happy to be in your state.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here.
Yes, and we want everybody who can vote, obviously, to vote, but it's very important for women. So what do you want to say to women?
Well, this is going to be a big, close race. Michigan is always tight. We know we're feeling good, but we got to translate that feeling into action. We deserve a leader who is strong and kind. It's not mutually exclusive. And that's why I think this moment is so important for all of us today, but for our kids and future generations too. There's so much at stake here, from our individual reproductive freedom to the ability to get ahead and make a good living and take care of your family. That's all on the line this election.
Yes, strong and kind.
Yes.
Isn't that a notion? And what can Michigan do to help get Kamala Harris to the White House?
I think we've got to do the hard work. In 2016, we were short 11,000 votes. That's 2 votes per precinct, which tells you that a conversation you have with a loved one or a neighbor or a fellow parishioner, whomever in your life you can talk to, We've got to do it. Do something, as Michelle Obama said at the convention.
Well, this is what we're doing tonight. We're doing something. Thank you for allowing us in your
Thank you.
state. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. Brian Grandson! I hear Chris Rock is in the house. Chris, where are you? Chris Rock is in the house. Ben Stiller, Jennifer Lopez, Tracy Ellis Ross. Jennifer Lopez! Where are you, Jennifer? Yes! Tracy Ellis Ross, where are you? Tracy Ellis, where are you on the screen? Tracy Ellis. Julia Roberts, where are you? And Miss Meryl Streep is in the house. So glad to have all of you familiar faces and those of you who are not.
Taylor Swift isn't the first successful woman Donald Trump has attacked. She's just the most recent.
I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers. I'd say, Rosie, you're fired.
Trump has a problem with women. Disrespectful.
It must be a pretty picture you drop into.
Insulting.
Ivana does exactly as I tell her to do.
Even violence.
Ivana Trump once used the term rape to describe a sexual encounter with Trump.
It's ugly.
I'm not thinking.
That's okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
It's cruel.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah.
And one thing he's proven is that he'll never change.
I could do this all day long. You going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
Would you want your son to treat women like Trump does?
Hey, when you're a star, you can do anything. Grab him by the...
Is this how you would want a man to treat your daughter?
blood coming out of her, wherever.
You know the answer. You know the truth. He says he hates Taylor.
I was not a Taylor Swift fan.
But the truth is, he hates all of us.
So let me give you the latest, which is literally breaking on Trump's very close friend, the person who is at the center of much of what MADDOW has to say as we go into the 2024 election, Mark Robinson. I'm reading this, so bear with me. These are the allegations which have literally just broke, and it's going to be part of a CNN report later on today, this Thursday. A source familiar with the situation said the revelations about Robinson include him saying things in online sex forums, including his love of transgender porn. And he also is a big person who likes to be what is more commonly known as a peeping Tom, peeping inside women's locker rooms. He's admitted that while he was a student at North Carolina, involved in several things which most people, probably of evangelical or Republican nature, would find pretty distasteful. And bearing in mind that the former president of the United States of America has said that Mark Robinson, in his personal and professional opinion, is 100% better politician than Martin Luther King ever was. Mark Robinson is also accused, let me read the exact words so I don't get it wrong, of verbalizing wanting to own slaves. So that is it. Trump's Mark Robinson, one of the people who's at the center of the Republican Party, at the center of Project 25, one of the poster boys for the Republican Party as they go into the election. Mark Robinson has, it's been confirmed, a huge supporter of transgender porn, which, bearing in mind all the hate, all the transphobia coming from the Republican Party, is a little bit shocking. Not surprising, just shocking.
And what's a really interesting state in there? North Carolina, which is a big target for the Democrats. And we just found out an hour ago that the lieutenant governor there, Mark Robinson, who's running for governor,
Never heard of him.
who Donald Trump called Martin Luther King on steroids, posted on a porn forum called Nude Africa that he's a black Nazi, expressed support for reinstating slavery, and detailed his sexual arousal from memories of peeping on women in public gyms, and he still fantasizes about it. He also has an Ashley Madison account.
How dare you kink shame?
Sure.
That's a great reaction. So Josh Stein was likely to win that race anyway. If they get Mark Robinson to drop out, his name is still on the ballot. But this makes North Carolina even more in play for Democrats. And this, again, is evidence of the type of candidates that Donald Trump thinks are good for the country. Martin Luther King on steroids, someone who says he's a black Nazi.
But he would obviously.
But what?
Let's state the obvious here.
Yeah.
Do you think Trump actually knew this guy was on porn sites?
My point is that Donald Trump likes anyone who likes him, and he doesn't bother to do the work.
That's called being human.
No, it's not. A lot of people like me who I don't like in return.
Like who?
Like, tell us now. I don't want to name names.
Go ahead. Let's start with Fox and Friends.
Yeah. Poor Kill
All right, Jessica. Yeah.
All right, Jessica.
I didn't interrupt. I just want to let that be known. Greg interrupted on my behalf.
The king shaming was kind of funny.
I will be going to Nude Africa in the break to see if that's true.
There's no reason anybody anywhere in America should be telling any child about transgenderism, homosexuality, any of that filth.
Words made from the pulpit of a North Carolina church by Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson raising some eyebrows tonight. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rod Carter.
And I'm Angela Taylor. Now, the video actually was from June. It went viral tonight after State Senator Jeff Jackson put it out on social media and called for Robinson to resign.
New at 11, CBS 17's Nick Sturdivant is digging deeper tonight. And Nick, you reached out to Senator Jackson and also the Lieutenant Governor about that video.
Yeah, that's right, you guys. I spoke with Senator Jackson, and he called Robinson flat out a bully. Robinson's office told me tonight that Senator Jackson is twisting the truth to boost his campaign.
And yes, I called it filth. And if you don't like it that I called it filth, come see me and I'll explain it to you.
For roughly 30 minutes, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson spoke in front of a congregation at Asbury Baptist Church in Seagrove. I tracked down the entire speech on the church's Facebook page, posted June 8th.
Those AR-15s and Glock 9mm and 45 calibers, where do you think they came from? Who do you think inspired them? God knew the world he was putting us into.
Robinson talked about the Second Amendment, critical race theory, but it's this clip that Senator Jeff Jackson says blew him away that months later is making its rounds on social media.
There's no reason anybody anywhere in America should be telling any child about transgenderism, homosexuality, any of that filth.
I watched it 5 times before I was convinced that he really was saying what I thought he was saying.
Jackson tweeted the video, typing, quote, "There's no debate here. This is open discrimination. It is completely unacceptable."
I just don't think he's had enough conversations with members of this community to see that they're every bit of deserving respect as anyone else in this state.
It got tens of thousands of views. Did you feel like maybe I'm fueling this video and getting more eyes to it?
We have an obligation to call out gross violations of decency. And when you see a violation like that, you can't just turn a blind eye to it.
And Governor Roy Cooper's office said in a statement via email, North Carolina is a welcoming state where we value public education, and the diversity of our people is abhorrent to hear anyone, especially an elected official, use hateful rhetoric that hurts people and our state's reputation. As for Lieutenant Governor Robinson's office, they said in a statement, the Lieutenant Governor was referring to teaching about these issues in the classroom of North Carolina public schools, not to the LGBTQ community. These issues do not belong in the classroom. They should be discussed at home. Live in Raleigh, Nick Sturdivant, CBS 17 News. All right.
Another fiery anti-gay speech this weekend from North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. A Republican, Robinson is widely considered to be the GOP favorite to run for governor next year. Fighting against increased LGBTQ visibility, he told churchgoers Sunday is exactly why God created him. WRAL state government reporter Will Doran has covered Robinson since he became the state's first black lieutenant governor in 2020. So, Will, how does this new speech fit in with what we've seen from Robinson in past speeches?
Robinson's oratory is what drove his whole political career, and he can really captivate an audience. And he really had no political experience before he came onto the scene in 2018 for a gun rights speech in Greensboro. That launched him to fame on the right, and now because of that, he's got a shot at being the next governor. But he also has a penchant for saying really inflammatory things and embracing all sorts of conspiracy theories about Jewish people, about gay people, about Muslims. The list goes on. So as he's likely going to run for governor here, people in state politics, especially on the right, have been wondering if he'd tone it down at all to be able able to win more moderate voters.
And of course, we saw that more toned down version after the State of the State address. So did he tone it down?
He did, yeah. After Governor Cooper earlier this month gave his annual State of the State speech, the GOP picked Robinson to deliver their response. And he talked about a lot of policy ideas, even technical stuff, infrastructure, taxes. But whoever wrote that speech for him didn't write the sermon that he gave on Sunday. He even seemed to mock the idea that he'd lean into a more normal political style, saying God didn't make him to be nice. God made him to be a fighter, and LGBTQ issues are at the top of his list. Here he is on Sunday.
Yes, I said it. Makes me sick every time I see it when I pass a church that flies that rainbow flag, which is a direct spit in the face to God Almighty. And if this nation does not stop it, this nation is going to be in trouble. God formed me because he knew there was going to be a time when God's learning was going to be intolerable to the wicked, when children were going to be dragged down to go see the drag show.
All right, certainly controversial comments there. So when will we hear more from Robinson on his future political plans?
About a month from now, on April 22nd, he has a big rally announced in Alamance County, where we expect him to make an announcement probably for what his 2024 plans are.
All right, we will be following that very closely, Will. I know you will be. And for more state politics coverage, visit the NC Capital section of WRAL.com.
Yes, I have a reservation on the Black Hitler.
And we traced them directly to Mark Robinson. We did interview Robinson today, and he categorically denied making these posts. And I'll get to that in just a moment here. But first, I want to walk people through just some of them. Take a look right here at this one. In one post, Robinson called himself a, quote, black Nazi. And when describing then President Barack Obama, writing, quote, I take Hitler over any of the shit that's in Washington right now. It even goes beyond that. Another disturbing post, Robinson defended slavery, writing, quote, slavery is not that bad, and I wish they would bring slavery back. I would certainly buy a few. All of these comments and many others that you can read on CNN.com were made on the message board of a porn website called Nude Africa. And Jake, in addition to those posts, he also expressed views on Nude Africa that sharply contradict his current policies as a socially conservative candidate for governor. For example, he has been vocally anti-transgender, but look at what Robinson wrote on the porn message board more than a decade ago, writing that he, quote, liked watching transgender porn, adding, quote, that's effing hot, and called himself a, quote, perv. In another thread that was discussing the story of a woman who said she was raped by her taxi driver while drunk, Robinson wrote, quote, and the moral of this story, don't F a drunk white bitch.
So he wrote all of this stuff years ago before he got into politics. How are you sure that it's him?
Yeah, so CNN, Jake, we found that Robinson consistently used that same username, Mini Soldier, that he used on Nude Africa in all of his social media. You can see it here. He used it on Pinterest, Black Planet, YouTube. He even used it as his Twitter handle. His full name was also listed on Nude Africa, and an email we found he used on Nude Africa, he used on several other websites. Now, the biographical data from multiple websites using the name Mini Soldier matches Robinson exactly, the exact date of birth, his hometown, the fact that his mother worked at an HBCU, that his favorite episode of The Twilight Zone is number 22.
Hi, Senator Vance. Do you have any reaction to Mark Robinson news? Senator Vance?
Yeah, well, listen, we know them. We know them well. We know Mark very well. Amazing guy. And we do love the state. I mean, you mentioned that Laura's from there. Spent a lot of time in North Carolina. She's from Wrightsville Beach, Wilmington area, and we have property all over the state. And adore North Carolina. But Mark is a wonderful person, a wonderful guy, a person I've gotten to know very, very well. And
Mark Robinson will be the groundbreaking governor who will make that happen, and I endorse his candidacy with everything I've got.